Oh, good evening. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 29th of April, which is a Sunday evening. And so what do we have in the news this week? This is probably the most stunning news of the week. This is Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in, who is the president of South Korea. And of course, Kim Jong-un is the president of North Korea. And actually, it's kind of an interesting photograph. I don't know whether you can pick this up on the camera, but the photographer has caught them both in mid-stride, so they appear to be actually floating towards the summit. And this is a historic summit that is taking place between North and South Korea. Of course, South Korea is probably one of the longest holdout countries to remain completely insular to the outside world, except for maybe contact with Russia and China, and maybe some some rebel states, because they have been known to deal in warfare technology and so on and so forth. But Kim Jong-un says North Korea is going to suspend its nuclear testing program. Okay, so this is probably the most important meeting of our time. As I say, North Korea has been a real holdout. There has been president after president after president have tried to negotiate with North Korea and have not managed to get on with either Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-il, who is his father. But Donald Trump, President Trump, seems to have made some incredible headway here, and we have to give credit where credit is due. I don't agree with all of Trump's policies, trust me. Certainly none of his environmental stuff is appealing to me, but in this particular situation, he read Kim Jong-un pretty well, and I think this is going to be a great and historic move forward. I think that Kim Jong-un has suddenly realized just how much trouble they are as a country and how isolated they are. They are going into another drought. He's spending money on nuclear testing rather than on food for his people, and I will show you an article in a second that is suggesting that 18 million people may perish in North Korea in the coming year. So let's take a quick peek at that, shall we? Okay, so this is the Daily Express. North Korea drought. 18 million could starve to death as Kim diverts funds to build nukes. And the date on this is November the 8th, 2017. United Nations chiefs will visit the country urgently before it's too late to make the case very clearly that innocent children should not starve to death. David Beasley, head of the UN World Food Programme, revealed the plans as he blamed the portly leader for ploughing money into his growing nuclear program instead of helping his 18 million citizens who are food insecure. Of those, 200,000 children are suffering with acute malnutrition, according to UNICEF. Mr. Beasley said, "I think the North Korean government understands, as I have made it clear, that Western donors don't feel comfortable giving because money that they think should be helping children is being used to build a nuclear program." And so here we have subsistence farming taking place. So this is, I think, why Kim Jong-un is more willing to talk as far as peace is concerned and end his nuclear program. Anyway, if this can be pulled off, if a peace treaty can be signed and the doors open, the demilitarized zone disappears. There's 25,000 soldiers, US soldiers, on the demilitarized zone protecting South Korea from North Korea. And to see those two countries come together and reunite would be just absolutely incredible. And I suspect that I think it's going to happen. Like I say, after seeing that article, I think they realize just how tenuous their situation is in North Korea. Okay, so this is a campaign against Waterloo campus debate raises over $12,000. A fundraising campaign begun in opposition to an appearance by a speaker who supports white supremacy has raised more than $12,000 for scholarships for underrepresented students at the University of Waterloo. Now, this is Faith Goldie was the speaker, and it's organised by the Laurier Society for Open Inquiry, a group co-founded by Lindsay Shepherd. The debate was cancelled when security costs reached $28,500, and this is one of the ways now in which we're shutting down free speech. It really doesn't matter whether you disagree or agree with the politics or ideology of the speaker. If they are invited to speak, it is in the interests of hearing the other side of the story and assessing one side against the other, and maybe draw bits from one and bits for the other, but the idea is to come up with a conversation, a debate, and a better solution maybe. But shutting down the whole conversation really just doesn't do anything. And of course here they are, they're talking about we don't want the Streisand effect, and of course you see when you shut something down, the Streisand effect, sorry, I should just mention here, was about Barbara Streisand. In 2003, singer Barbara Streisand sued a California geographical company for publishing online photos of her house in Malibu, drawing thousands to gawk at aerial shots of the mansion. So when you try and keep people away from things, you tend to pique their interest. But it is interesting that the people who seem to be campaigning for free speech are actually the people who are shutting down free speech and not permitting people to have access to a full range of points of view. This is an absolute disgrace, and if I were a parent with children in university, I would be pulling them out of Wilfrid Laurier University and the campus at University of Waterloo. This is absolutely outrageous, and this sort of leads us into our next story. Students let it all out in cry closet. Okay, so what this is basically doing is that they have built a closet for students so they can go in and have a little cry when they're stressed out by exams. Now I'm just going to read you the whole thing because it's short, but it is interesting, and it is probably the same people who tried to shut down the freedom of speech and the presentation by Faith Goldie. If there's one thing Snowflake College students are prone to is crying, especially around exam time. So when University of Utah art student Nemo Miller was looking for an art installation idea, he turned to the pressures of final exam week in an inspiration. Enter the cry closet. According to news outlet KUTV, the standing room only closet was installed at the school's Marriott Library Sunday as a getaway for students to have a quick cry to release some stress. This space is meant to provide a place for students studying for finals to take a short 10-minute break, read a sign outside the cry closet. There are only 5 rules to using the closet. Knock before entering. Limit one person in the room at a time. Well, that's not very inclusive. I thought they were supposed to be inclusive. There's a 10-minute time limit. Turn off lights and timer after each use. And 5, use the hashtag #CryClosetUofU to discuss on social media. I stayed 11 minutes but feel so much better. Thank you, whoever built this. Can we add a box of tissues, please? Tweeted one closet user. Please. I know that we shouldn't hide our feelings, but you know what? If you are going to have a good cry over exams, I don't think you should be doing it at the university. I think you should maybe do it at home before you leave, or whatever, in the privacy of your own home. But I really think that this is just, it is not helping to think that words fail me. Words absolutely fail me on that one, and where we're going, and how these people are ever going to make important life-changing decisions for themselves or for other people. If you can't get through an exam without a good cry, how are you ever going to face the real world? And talking about facing the real world, here we have, this is the Auditor General, Bonnie Lysyk, and in Ontario, of course, we're coming up for an election in June, and prior to an election, the Auditor General has to do a report on the government, and this is pretty damning. It basically says that the estimates for the deficit that the Liberal government plan to run for the next several years are 75% out of whack. And they've done this by hiding debt, by borrowing offshore in another country to hide that debt off the books, by using pension assets as a government asset rather than a committed fund. Absolutely zero transparency as far as this is concerned. I don't know about this Liberal government. It is just so dishonest, and this is a pretty damning report coming just prior to the election. But I think we should all remember that this is our money, and it's not just this paper. Liberals' understated deficit, Auditor General warns. Now they're trying to play this down, but here we are. Bonnie Lysyk is an incredible Auditor General. She is so astute. She worked for Manitoba Hydro for 3 years, I believe, so she really is on the ball about hydro, the money that's being wasted at hydro, the way that we're being bribed with a 25% discount off our bills, and although it feels very nice to be paying less hydro, this is a debt that will be paid, well, it may not even be paid by the time your great-great-grandchildren come around. So this is an absolute disgrace. The Liberals have taken us so far into debt. We've doubled the debt in the last 15 years, from $150 billion to about $325 billion as we speak. And this is basically unpayable, just at a time when people are retiring en masse. And of course the importance about that is that when people retire, they tend to draw down their pension funds rather than contribute to their pension funds. And of course they don't spend as much because most of their spending is done by that time of life. So there's many issues coming up with this election, and I don't think we can survive another Liberal government of 4 years tenure. And I'm going to bring this up again. Yes, I am. City thrown under bus. Okay, so this is Tory. This is the Mayor of Toronto. Tory begs province feds for help. The City of Toronto has issued an urgent appeal to the federal and provincial governments for help dealing with the growing number of refugee claimants in its shelter system. They've gone from 459 per night in 2016 to about 2,351 per night as of this month. And his latest figure represents 37.6% of those in the system. So once again, here we have a situation, no room, it says. The city said its shelter system serves about 19,000 people per year. This month it has served an average of 6,241 people per night, with 2,351 of those being refugee claimants and 3,890 non-refugee claimants. Now, if the system is struggling at 6,000 people a night, how are we ever going to deal with 250,000 to 450,000, which is what they're planning for immigration into Canada next year? I just don't see how this is going to work out. All of these people will be going to the major cities of Canada, and you know, they're all struggling around this 4,000 to 6,000 head mark. I just don't see how this is going to work. So, once again, we have a refugee crisis on our hands, and nowhere to put these people where they're safe. And I mean, this is actually doing these people a disservice, to invite people into your country when you know that you can't manage. Who's that helping? Is that really, aren't they just becoming a refugee within Canada? I mean, maybe they were better off, in a refugee camp in Yemen, closer to their own people and their own foods and so on and so forth. Most of these people are being ripped out of horrible situations in their own country. And so, we need to think about this. Do we really need to make these people refugees in Canada just to say that we're taking in a certain percentage of immigrants? This is a conversation we need to have, because we're all going to have to pay for the cost of all of this, because the consequences of these actions taken today and tomorrow are going to reverberate through this country, and it is going to affect every single person who lives in Canada. Okay, next story. I thought this was kind of interesting. President Nixon's release of JFK documents. And again, the fact that they're not going to be released reveals much about what must be in those documents. And Trump writes in a memo issued yesterday that some of the classified documents are of such gravity that it outweighs the public interest in immediate disclosure. The FBI and CIA said the release could jeopardize national security. Well, those are pretty strong words. So what the hell is in those files? It must be something pretty damning. So you can only imagine, but I suspect that it reveals all kinds of culpability from all kinds of parties that we never thought might be involved. And this could be anywhere from the government to the mob. And it looks like we're not going to find out any more information anytime soon. So that is the week as I saw it, and please, if you enjoyed this little wrap-up of the news, like and subscribe below. Click that big red button. It really makes a difference when you do that. So this is the Hound Dog signing off, and you have yourself a great week, and you take care, and we will talk real soon. See you now. Bye.